on YouTube, I'll just begin. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, ladies. Not even evening. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, everyone. So the ceasefire in Gaza is over now, guys. It is over. Israeli airstrikes have been hitting Gaza. I'm going to give you guys the latest on that. I'm going to talk about how this is going to lead to America going to war in the Middle East. And guys, look, we all knew it. And I've been talking about this since the best part of a year. So let's just jump straight over to this, guys. I'm going to give you the live updates and then we will close this down. I will be back on later today at 8 o'clock and we'll be talking more in depth about this. So I'm going to, guys, there are lots of updates coming. So I'm just going to start from 1 hour ago. So 1 hour ago, guys, these were the updates from 1 hour ago. Now I'm going from Al Jazeera as my main news, as my main outlet here, guys. There are many news outlets reporting on this. Al Jazeera, they are slightly biased, but, you know, I'm going to give you the information. Now, the reason I'm giving you guys Al Jazeera information is because Al Jazeera seems to get it out quicker. I'll give you the headlines and I'll give you guys my speculation what's happening. But if you're just joining, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about the ceasefire in Gaza. Does look like it's over now, guys. I don't know how anybody can say that this is, you know, I don't know how anybody can say this ceasefire is not stopped now. You know, I would argue that it never even started. So from 1 hour ago, guys, ceasefire threatened as armed groups clash with Hamas forces. Then we've got from 56 minutes ago, Netanyahu urged to resume attacks on Gaza. Israel's far-right national security minister is calling on Netanyahu to return to attacks on Gaza. Israeli army identifies remains of another captive. More Israeli ministers suggest return to war on Gaza following Israeli airstrikes on Gaza today. So there have been Israeli airstrikes on Gaza today, guys. Now, again, the information about this, surrounding this, you know, what I've got access to, it's limited, to say the least. But what we can confirm is there have been Israeli airstrikes on Gaza today. Now, you've got to understand the world right now, guys, especially here in the United Kingdom. We have a lot of pro-Palestinian people in the United Kingdom who are going to be out on the streets and they're going to be protesting. They're going to be going crackers, bonkers and crazy. That's going to have an alternate reaction. We've also got this football game on the 6th of November. That looks like it's going to be carnage as well. But ladies and gentlemen, it does look like America is moving towards war. Remember, Donald Trump a couple of days ago, he came out and he says, if Hamas will not disarm, then we're going to disarm them. We will disarm them, and it will be quick. So let's just jump up. Israel hands over bodies of 15 Palestinians. That's from 19 minutes ago. And then we've got 13 minutes ago, UN humanitarian chief shares footage of the devastation in Khan Yunis. So let me just scroll down now here, guys, and let me get this, what we've been talking about. The ceasefire is over in, right. 2 Palestinians have been killed and many wounded by an Israeli airstrike in northern Gaza. The Wafa news agency is reporting. The reports quoted medical sources saying that the ambulance crews were unable to reach the area due to dangerous conditions. So right now, guys, it does look like the ceasefire is over. And I don't know how anybody can claim that this ceasefire even held in the first instance. You know, the very day that this ceasefire was announced, I think it was it last Friday? I think it was last Friday. I can't even remember, guys. But the very day that this ceasefire was announced, you know, that very day on the streets in Gaza, there were executions. Now, the reason I'm saying that quite openly is because those executions were, you know, were being reported. BBC verified, and the BBC are very woke, guys. They're very woke. But, you know, they came out, the BBC, and they verified executions were taking place on the streets of Gaza within hours of the ceasefire. What we understand is, and again, the exact numbers, I don't think anybody will know. that the mainstream media are claiming that 27 people on that day lost their lives. Now, whether that was with executions, armed clashes on the streets, and every day in Gaza, there has been some sort of armed clash between militant groups. So, look, guys, what this means is the ceasefire, and I'm speculating right now, guys, I'm giving you guys this live, and it is live, and it's developing. It looks like the ceasefire is over. It looks like Hamas are still armed because they're attacking the Israeli military, the Israeli Defense Force. We've got to look what Donald Trump said in the United States. And again, I believe this has always been the plan. I believe this has always been the direction of travel. You guys can go back through my videos like from a long, long time ago. And I've been saying it's always the plan for the United States to go into the Middle East, to have their war in the Middle East. By the Middle East, I'm talking about Iran, but this is going to be the, these are the breadcrumbs that are leading to Iran. So the United States are going to go into that region. Maybe an aircraft carrier is going to get sunk. Maybe one of their ships is going to get sunk. Remember, guys, remember what we talked about on this channel, asymmetric naval warfare. We know that the Iranians have just turned on their transponders to their dark oil fleet, which says to me that they're turning them on to have deniability. So when a drone strike comes from one of these oil tankers, the Iranians can say, "Oh, it wasn't us. Look, all our tankers have got transponders on. We've had them on for over a month." That's why I think it's coming in that region, guys. I think the United States will go into that region with their a ship will get sunk. It will get blamed on the Iranians, or it will be the Iranians. And then I think that's it, guys. And the reason I'm saying this, if you look at the world now, polarization's coming. We're literally heading towards Oceania and Eurasia. And for those of you guys who don't know the reference, that's from George Orwell's 1984, whereby there was a constant state of war between Oceania and Eurasia. Again, you don't really understand who or where, what, why those countries are. But what I'm saying is right now, it's looking like Donald Trump wants to take control of America, obviously, Greenland, Canada, the United Kingdom, Venezuela. With the United Kingdom, he also gets Antarctica, Australia, New Zealand. Obviously, with that, you would have Israel, you would have Taiwan, and I'm going to say Japan as well. Although Taiwan and Japan are a little bit of wild cards. And then the rest of the world will be divvied up, and the Russians would move through Ukraine, the Russians would move through Europe, and the Russians would move up to the English Channel. Britain would be the vanguard, and that looks like it's going to be the new world order, guys. Because what better way to keep people subjected by keeping them in a constant state of war? Top cosmic secret, in fact, cosmic top secret is saying good afternoon, Sean, and I'm saying good afternoon to you as well. Cosmic top secret over on TikTok. Guys, listen, this is gonna be a short update today. I am gonna be on later on, and we're gonna be exploring this further. But let me just see if there's been any updates. Right, 41 minutes ago. Oh, so we've got two. Oh, hang on a minute. I think we've got two airstrikes going in, guys, at the moment. I only thought there was one. So I've just read there. Hang on. I think there's been two airstrikes. Look, guys, I'm getting this relatively new. Okay. So from two by Israeli attack in northern Gaza. 2 Palestinians have been killed and wounded by an Israeli airstrike in northern Gaza. And then also, IDF confirms strike in Gaza, accusing Hamas of Israel strikes southern Gaza. So there's multiple airstrikes going in right now, guys, to Gaza. And again, how can we call this a ceasefire? Like, how can we call that a ceasefire, guys? If people are still airstriking and people are still running around the street shooting each other, doesn't matter whether you want to call it a ceasefire or not. If people are still shooting at each other, it's not a ceasefire. It's not a ceasefire, guys. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I'm just reading this in real time. The Israeli Defense Forces just released a statement. Right, guys, this is from a few minutes ago, like 13 minutes ago. The Israeli Defense Forces, and this is from the BBC, guys, as well, so I'm quite, I'm okay to repeat it. The Israeli Defense Forces breaking, guys, Israeli Defense Forces just released a statement. Earlier today, terrorists fired an anti-tank missile and gunfire towards the IDF troops operating to dismantle terrorist infrastructure in the Rafah area. So for those guys who don't know, Rafah is the, it's like, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, the Rafah crossing is the crossing between Egypt and, Egypt and Gaza or Palestine, whatever we want. I guess I'm British, so I have to call it Palestine. Earlier today, terrorists fired an anti-tank missile and gunfire towards IDF troops operating to dismantle terrorist infrastructure in the Rafah area in southern Gaza, in accordance with the ceasefire agreement. That doesn't make sense because that's certainly not in accordance with the ceasefire agreement, but whatever. Oh, no, sorry, it's just misread. In accordance with the ceasefire agreement, in response, the IDF has begun striking in the area to eliminate the threat and dismantle tunnel shafts and military structures used for terrorist activity. These terrorist actions constitute a blatant violation of the ceasefire agreement, and the IDF will respond firmly. In response, Hamas said it remains committed to the ceasefire agreement, accusing Israel of violating the deal and fabricating pretexts just to justify its crimes. We don't know what's happening, guys. We don't know what's happening out there. What we do know, what we do know is those bombs are still raining down. And like I always say on this channel, guys, the reality doesn't really matter anymore. It's the perception of that reality. So again, guys, look, I'm going to go a little bit out there. They're the facts. I'm just going to give you something I talked about earlier. Earlier on, when I talked about AI, we was talking about AI and how it's getting wild. There was a video of Keir Starmer. It was AI. But you had to look deep. You had to really think, right, is that AI? There was a video circulated online. I'm sure you guys have seen it. It was on TikTok. It's been shared on X. There's Keir Starmer. He sat there, he's saying, like, people of the United Kingdom, I've had consultation with the Muslim Council of Britain, and it's my whatever. I am now going to cancel Christmas. And it's not that far beyond. That's not, this time next year, we won't be able to know whether that's AI or not. And, in response to this, Hamas are saying, and look, guys, I'm not saying this is the case. I'm just saying next year, we will not know what to believe. In response, Hamas said, remember, guys, Hamas directly translated means violence in Arabic, or that dialect. I don't know what dialect of Arabic that is. Hamas said it remains committed to the ceasefire agreement, accusing Israel of violating the deal and fabricating pretexts to justify its crimes. So now you can imagine a scenario whereby we see footage of these, these Gazan, Hamas, they're claiming to be Hamas or whatever, firing rocket grenades at some Israeli tanks, and it's AI. I'm not saying that's the case, guys. I'm saying we could see that. Equally, on the flip side of that, Hamas could go and fire those weapons. And then when that video footage is released, they could say, no, this never happened. This is actually AI. How do we know what's happening, guys? Literally, that's the future. That is the future we're heading towards now. Literally, that's the future we're heading towards. There was mass executions in the streets. No, it wasn't. It was AI. Prove it wasn't. You're never going to prove it, guys. Nobody's ever going to go there and find that. It's going to be very difficult to find out. It's going to be very difficult this time next year, certainly the year after, to identify what we are actually seeing, what's real and what's not. But guys, look, it does look like, let me refresh this. It does look like the ceasefire is over between Israel and Gaza. I would actually argue that this never even happened. What are the likely options now are, the United States have said, if Hamas do not disarm, then we will disarm them and it will happen quick. So what we can see, what we can understand is the likelihood now is that there are could be, and this is me speculation, guys. This is me absolute speculation right now. There's nothing official saying this, although this is the direction of travel I'm seeing. United States put boots on the ground there, to disarm Hamas and stop the fighting. I feel that's what's coming, guys. I really do. I feel that's what's coming. Oh, hang on. Here we are, guys. You know what, guys? You know how I was just saying it then? This is literally 28 seconds ago, guys, that the updates are coming quick and fast. So you know how earlier I was saying I don't believe this ceasefire ever really came into place? I said the first day, the very day that this ceasefire was initiated, I think 24 or 27 people were lost their lives. I'll just read you this, guys. 30 seconds ago. Gaza death toll rises. The ministry says bodies of 18 people have arrived at the Enclave's hospital in the last 24 hours. This includes 10 of whom were rescued and 8 of whom were directly targeted by the occupation. It said, adding that 3 Palestinians were also wounded. Since the ceasefire came into effect on 11th of October, at least 35 people have been killed and 146 injured. Doesn't sound like a ceasefire to me, guys. Doesn't sound like a ceasefire. Can you imagine if we I know those numbers are paling into insignificance when you think about the actual death toll in Gaza. What I'm getting at here, guys, is can you imagine if this was the death toll in the United Kingdom, if there was some sort of event in the United Kingdom and 35 people were killed and 146 injured? That's the reality of what's happening right now in Gaza. And remember, guys, Gaza is a very tiny, tiny, tiny little place. It's very tiny, Gaza. Looks like that whole place is going to come down and going to become rubble very soon, guys. It looks like it's going to become rubble. Right, ladies and gentlemen, that looks like all the updates. I am going to be talking about this later on tonight. Live stream. I will jump over, guys. I'll get a few comments over from I'll get a few comments on YouTube. I'll get a few comments over on YouTube, guys, and then I will read you this statement from the IDF, and then we will close this down. But I am going to be talking about this later on today, guys, okay? Andrea Fenton is saying war with Iran eventually, yes. I think the first steps is for the US military now to go into Gaza, disarm Hamas. It's going to be, guys, it's going to be fast. Like, for those of you guys who want to watch how to execute a military operation, you're going to see it very quickly. A green military operation, you're going to see this very quickly. You're going to see it very quickly in Gaza. You're going to see US Marines. You're going to see 82nd Airborne, 101st Airborne. You're going to see Delta Force. You're going to see Navy SEALs. You're going to see all sorts of crazy shit descend onto Gaza. They are going to close those bad guys down real quick. They're going to be closed down, and then they will stay there, I believe, as initial peacekeepers. That's what I think is coming, guys, okay? And then ultimately that is going to lead to a wider war with Iran. Remember, guys, okay, when we talk about Israel, when we talk about Iran, when we talk about that whole region, Gaza obviously being part of it, this all started, as far as I'm concerned, because of a trade route that was proposed by Saudi Arabia through Jordan, through Israel to the Mediterranean. That would have absolutely cut out Iran's influence in the global oil market, because right now Iran can close the Strait of Hormuz. They have that capacity. If you don't need to go through the Strait of Hormuz, it doesn't matter. It does not matter, because you can go straight, so Iran's significance is gone. That, I think it's coming, guys. Templar Matt Templar Matt's comment doesn't want to come up. Oh, hang on. The Hamas. Oh, sorry, guys. Right, something. I think my YouTube's playing up, guys. Right, I'm not going to repeat that, guys. There's certain things I can't repeat. Slim is saying, "Go the Donald." He does feel like King Donald, doesn't he? Matthew Hopkins is saying it's kicking off. It is kicking off, guys. Look, not only is it kicking off, we've got this football game in the United Kingdom on the 6th of November. that is going to be kicking off as well, guys. The football game on the 6th of November, it's going to be kicking off. You can imagine now these pro-Palestinian guys, you know, the liberals that are like, you know, I'm not going to get into that, guys. You know, so we've got these pro-Palestinians who are all organised a mass protest in Birmingham, outside Aston Villa Football Club on the 6th of November. Also, Tommy Robinson's coming back from, where is it? Not Egypt. Go on, Israel. Doesn't it look beautiful, Israel, guys? I do have a soft spot for the Middle East. I do. I have a soft spot for the Middle East, guys. I enjoy spending my time in the Middle East. I've had good experiences in the Middle East. Tommy Robinson's coming back from Israel, and he's coming back and he's organising a counter-protest at Aston Villa. So, look, it does look like the stage is set for the 6th of November in Birmingham. Right, guys, I'm going to read you this and then I'm going to close this down again. Oh, hang on, there's some breaking news coming, guys. Breaking news coming. Right. 8 killed in Gaza in the last... Okay, right. So, so just real quick, guys. The reason... Yeah. So, the reason... Okay, so the BBC right now is just reporting this. So remember what I said a couple of minutes ago from Al Jazeera about the death toll rising? It's 6 minutes ago what I said about the death toll rising in Gaza. What did we say? We said like 30. I can't remember what the numbers I gave, but I can't remember the numbers I gave, but I gave them a while ago. The BBC have just reported that same story with the same numbers, and that's why Al Jazeera seems to get the news out a little bit quicker, even though it is a little bit biased, but all news articles are biased. Al Jazeera seems to get that news out the quickest. Anyway, so I'm going to read you this statement again, guys, and I'm going to close this down. So IDF confirms strike in Gaza, accusing Hamas of blatant violation. So earlier today, this statement was released by the Israeli Defense Forces. Earlier today, terrorists fired an anti-tank missile and gunfire towards IDF troops operating to dismantle terrorist infrastructure in the Rafah area in southern Gaza, in accordance with the ceasefire agreement. In response, the IDF has begun striking in the area to eliminate the threat and to dismantle the tunnel shafts and military structures used for terrorist activity. These terrorist actions constitute a violation of the ceasefire agreement, and the IDF will respond firmly. And then in response, Hamas said it remains committed to the ceasefire agreement, accusing Israel of violating the deal and fabricating the pretext to justify its crimes. What we've got to understand, guys, is just real quick, we've got to understand that there will be Hamas, and then there will be other groups operating within Hamas. So there will be splinter groups and dissident groups operating within that infrastructure. So the main Hamas leader may say we're committed to the ceasefire, but his underlings, they're going batshit crazy. They're going crackers. Very difficult to deal with these things, guys. I think you're going to see very quickly U.S. military boots on the ground to deal with that situation. I don't see any other way around it now, guys. You can't, if the ceasefires are not holding, like, how do you deal with that? Like, right, we're going to have a ceasefire. Yeah, okay. Get them lined up on the streets. Right, you guys with masks on, you've committed a crime. Quick, get yourselves over to the United Kingdom in the hotel. That's where we are right now, guys. It's chaos. It's carnage. What I will say on this, guys, is Donald Trump can play a very strong hand here. He can't play that same hand with Russia. Like, Gaza is like this big. Gaza's this big. Russia's like this big. You can't play the same hand. Anyway, guys, listen, I'm going to close this down now. I think what this says here is there's been multiple airstrikes now. Again, they're getting the numbers out. It's still a little bit confusing. There's a fog of war. Getting these numbers out, it is difficult. There have been, what I believe anyway, I believe there have been multiple airstrikes in Gaza. The Hamas are accusing the Israelis of breaking the ceasefire. The Israelis are saying, no, it was you guys. I don't think it matters at this point. The ceasefire has clearly failed. It looks like US intervention has to happen at this point, guys. Anyway, listen, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for checking me out this morning, hanging out with me this afternoon. I'm going to close this down now. I am going to focus on this more later on tonight when we're back on the live stream at 8. It is crazy, guys. There's going to be a reaction to this in the United Kingdom. We have a beautiful, vibrant Muslim community in the United Kingdom, and they are all very annoyed at this, guys, okay? So that is coming. More stuff's coming to the United Kingdom. Get ready for the 6th of November because, you know, that is coming, guys, also. The 6th of November in Aston Villa, that football game with Aston Villa. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to close now, and I will see you guys later. And if you've not done so already, guys, like, follow, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification, guys, all those things that help this channel grow. Because ultimately, it's only your fine fingers that help my channel grow. So I'll see you later, guys. Right, that's TikTok off, and you guys, I am going to. Gaza is the foreskin, Russia is the rest of the cock. Right, Gaza is the foreskin, Russia is the rest of the cock and balls. I don't even know what that means. But I mean, maybe it's a good thing for a t-shirt. Anyway, guys, listen, I'm going to close this down now. I'm going to be back on tonight, later on this evening, and that's what we're going to be focusing on. I'll speak to you guys later.